when you take the fact that 12% of the population, adult population, holds crypto, you're looking at 8% that actually are having an appetite for crypto and super. So that's not insignificant.
The amount people feel they need to retire has really increased in the last 2 years.
The people in that cohort that are crypto investors, you know, they've built up a certain level of comfort and skill with navigating this world, and they're getting good returns, many of them, and they're sort of looking at their super funds that are doing what, like 8% or something, and saying, look at how much I can get over here. I'm young, I can take on this risk.
Welcome to the next episode of our CoreData podcast. My name's Alana, I'm a researcher here at CoreData, and I largely look after our retirement research and our superannuation research. And today I have Anna, who is our researcher on our cryptocurrency research, but also things like investor sentiment index and advisor pulse check. Today we're going to be having a chat around cryptocurrency and superannuation, and although they sometimes would be really largely separate topics, we're really seeing a trend this year in these two things linking up. So me and you have had this conversation a few times, because one of the things in one of our reports, Best Possible Retirement this year, was we saw an increased amount of people who take out their super in a lump sum, investing it in assets like cryptocurrency. And I mean, what have you thought of that kind of trend?
I mean, firstly, I think it's kind of interesting that you've got these people that actually are taking a lump sum out of their super.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already something to unpack there.
Yes.
They potentially are chasing higher returns than what their super fund is giving them. And this also flows into this thing that we were talking about recently, actually, where in the last Best Possible Retirement, it actually came out that people feel like they need a lot more to retire. Would you like to take us through?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good place to start in terms of, you know, the wider context of where we're seeing this trend. And I mean, really what this year has cemented is that people are really struggling. You know, we've got a lot of uncertainty in the market, you know, with the Trump tariffs, with the wars that are going on. And, you know, this tends to happen when we're sort of on the brink of potentially recession. People, you know, move towards assets that they know, which is, you know, the likes of gold. But in terms of retirement, what was really clear for us this year, and we have discussed this a few times around, is that the amount people feel they need to retire has really increased in the last 2 years. So for pre-retirees, it's nearly now about 1 million they think they need to retire on. That's up by about 18% in 2 years. And then for retirees, it's up 32%. And they're up nearly thinking that somebody nowadays would need about 800,000 to retire. Yeah, so people are really concerned about retirement. They're really not trusting the institutions that they would have, you know, years ago to kind of have their back. They're kind of taking things into their own hand. And that trend that we're seeing around people even taking out lump sums from their super, that's all about control, you know. But how does that lap in, like, with crypto? Like, is control part of the crypto asset?
Absolutely. I mean, the crypto space is sort of known for that, actually. It's all about doing it yourself. And also having control and actually owning the assets. I mean, it's a bit of a complex world in a way, because you've got lots of different types of cryptocurrency, but that was the original aim.
Okay.
Or one of, there was many aims.
Yeah.
So it is very strongly linked to that DIY mindset, ownership, control, that kind of thing. So it's not surprising that we see crypto being one of the areas that people taking out a lump sum actually want to move into. Yeah. But it's not the top area, actually. Aussie equities came out first, but only slightly above. So most are wanting to move it into Aussie equities and managed funds, around a third. But it was 28% for crypto, which was really, I think it surprised both of us.
It is, yeah. I think that was up from 9% in 2023. So it's really jumping, you know. And I have your article here, one of your crypto articles, which I advise everybody to read. But one of the things I thought was so interesting around you saying that 12% of Australian adults hold cryptocurrency in 2025. Yeah. That's a lot. I was really surprised by that. You know, what does the typical person look like who kind of holds crypto?
Well, a few things. I mean, this may not be surprising to you or to our audience, but they're typically men. So 3/4 of the holders in Australia are men. They're typically skewing a bit younger, so 30-year-olds are the most common age group to hold these assets.
Yeah.
But, we still see it in older cohorts as well.
Okay.
So pretty much a man in his 30s is the most likely. Income is also an interesting one.
Yeah.
I think there's a strong kind of perception that crypto investing is just like people who take a punt down on the pokies, kind of like doing that in a digital form.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing nowadays is that the people investing in crypto are actually having, they have other assets.
Okay.
So 9 in 10 of them are actually investors broadly.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
that speaks to a higher level of sort of financial literacy and interest in building wealth and investing more broadly and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, we also see an income sort of peaking around 150 to 250,000.
Okay.
They're sort of the most likely cohort to engage.
Probably have a bit more discretionary spending.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to do that, yeah. And I mean, really this year where our two sort of worlds have collided a lot is in SMSFs. So, I mean, you mentioned it in your article and we also mention it in Best Possible Retirement, around, I think it's something like a third of those who hold SMSFs, and the reason is because of cryptocurrency, that they wanted, that's why they opened one.
Yeah, so this is among crypto holders. So that comes from our crypto research.
Okay.
So we didn't survey all SMSF holders in
that case. That would be a lot,
So among crypto holders that have an SMSF, 40% are already investing in crypto.
Okay.
And it was a driver for half of them to set it up.
Yeah.
And for some of them, it was the main driver.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really opening up. So cryptocurrency is sort of acting as this emerging kind of gateway into SMSFs. And you can see, again, it comes back to that conversation of control.
Yeah.
These two cohorts are quite closely aligned.
Yeah.
So it's kind of to be expected in a way. And the reason that they're going to SMSFs is because we don't have much of an option in the Australian superannuation landscape to invest like from your sort of traditional fund perspective.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
There's just one fund that's done it.
AMP.
AMP,
yeah. That kind of, I think, shocked the superannuation world when AMP in May of last year, introduced that. Like, it's still a very small amount of their investment portfolio. I think it's like 0.05%. Yes. But, I mean, talk about, jumping straight in, and nobody else has followed them so far.
So far, yes.
Yeah.
I think they took a very measured approach. I think even in their article about it, they were saying, we're not going 0 to 100 or something. It's 0 to 0.05. So it's a very small allocation. It's also to Bitcoin futures.
Yeah.
So they're not actually directly holding Bitcoin.
Okay.
So this sort of speaks to how traditional finance is moving into this space. They want to be doing it in a way that's crypto in a familiar form, basically.
Right. Okay.
There are people that are also doing direct crypto holdings.
Okay. Through AMP or just in general?
No, just in general.
Okay.
But there is a sort of, it's easier for them to go and do it if it's in the form of like an ETF or something, or as Bitcoin futures, because they sort of operate on the regulation and the rails that they're sort of familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think, in your opinion, is that the way a fund should move into this space? Is that how we kind of go from, like you said, cryptocurrency being this sort of enigma unicorn back a few years ago, and it's starting to become so mainstream now? But, how do funds start to bring it into their portfolio? How start to get, Australians and pre-retirees and retirees probably used to the idea that this might be worth having in their investment portfolios?
I think it's a question of the fund, really, their investment philosophy and that kind of thing, to see if it suits. But what AMP has done, as I said before, it's a very modest approach. It's a modest allocation. So I think that they've done their research and they've justified it as bringing the diversification benefits, because cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, let's speak about Bitcoin, because not all crypto is the same.
Okay. What do you mean? So, let's talk about that, because this is this is a world I don't know too much about.
This is like its own can of worms. We could talk about this for a lot longer, but basically there are hundreds, probably now, of thousands of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
But they all have different features, and they have, for instance, an important one of those might be the control.
Yeah.
So how decentralized the cryptocurrency is, or whether there's a limited supply. Because
Okay.
if there's not a limited supply, then you can just basically print money with these.
Right, okay.
So in this case, we'll just talk about Bitcoin because
Yeah.
that is what AMP have moved into.
Right, okay, yeah.
So yeah, in their case, I think they assessed it as bringing in a good level of diversification
Yeah.
because it's less correlated with traditional assets. So it's basically acting how alternative asset classes would act.
Yeah.
And that's been, a part of portfolios for a long time.
Yeah. No, so it's not super scary different, but it's acting the same way.
Somewhat. Of course, there's differences within each asset class, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. And what's the return like? Obviously, it's been very successful in the last few years.
Yeah, it has. I mean, of course, there's been volatility in that, and that's, I think, one of the big parts of hesitation for people, especially from that sort of traditional finance background.
Yeah.
And also having the track record. That's so important for these institutions. Now, at least Bitcoin is the oldest of them all.
Okay, yeah.
So it's sort of, you've got quite a lot of history there now to look into. But in terms of the volatility, it does seem to be going down more and more.
Yeah, and just stabilizing a bit?
A little bit.
Okay.
Compared to the early days, for sure.
Yeah. It's quite interesting because for me, when I was looking at all of these trends, and especially within best possible retirement, where we saw huge shifts in what people are investing in, and we sort of mentioned it at the start. You see the line outside Bullion and Martin Place, and you're walking into work for people, selling or buying gold. Yeah. But gold is something that we would expect to kind of increase at this kind of time where it's really volatile in general. I think things like when the Trump tariffs came in, that really scared people, especially people who were about to move into retirement, and then they went and looked at their balance and, overnight they had huge drops. But yeah, with crypto, it's quite interesting. We're seeing that it's not like gold. It's not known. It's not this old thing that's sort of people have come to expect. What do you think of that? Why is that becoming more popular? Is it because the return is so good, or?
I think, again, it's really hard to generalize about all crypto in one bucket. In the case of Bitcoin, there are quite a lot of people in the crypto scene that compare it to gold.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
It's basically digital gold.
Right, smart.
Yeah, so I think that comes back to what I was saying earlier about the capped supply. And actually, gold doesn't have a capped supply.
Okay.
There's plenty more in the ground. So that's one of the things that people, enthusiasts around Bitcoin, sort of point to.
Okay.
But the sort of other factors are this kind of hard money mindset around sort of ownership and not being an asset that can inflate at the will of the people controlling it.
True. Yeah, and probably that's an aspect of it is, we have a few certain leaders who are probably pulling a lot of strings and causing some of the disruptions that we're seeing across the world.
Yes.
What do you think the future looks like for crypto in superannuation?
Oh, that's a great question. I think in the immediate future, the people that want to invest in crypto right now, they don't really have much of a choice in the normal super funds, so they probably move into the SMSF space.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's something I think a lot of people in the scene are sort of quite interested in as a trend.
Yeah.
But sort of longer term, it's not impossible that other funds would want to move into this space at a very small allocation. But I think that the way that they do that is going to be very kind of important with member sort of setting expectations and communicating to their members around that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it is still a very divisive asset class.
Yeah.
And retirement is, probably where you want the least risk.
You want the kind of safety
age,
there.
but
it's hard because there's also an education piece with super, and ASIC talk about this a lot, and even the funds talk about this a lot around helping people to understand, what the role of super actually is. It isn't supposed to be your risky portfolio where you play around with, the products. It is supposed to be a set and forget thing. But we are seeing this need for control right now, which the funds are going to kind of have to respond to, and this need for transparency as well with investments. And a lot of the funds are seeing sort of flows out of their funds of members for SMSFs, and they're losing people to SMSFs. It's still a trend that is continuing. And I suspect next year when we do this research again, we're going to see, even more results that might give us a little bit of insight into this trend. So you have just recently done a huge piece of work on cryptocurrency, and I mean, you do it every year, but what have you seen this year in particular around the linkage between cryptocurrency and super?
So this time we included questions about super because of basically what had happened with AMP, and I was like, I want to know what crypto holders think about this.
Okay, what do they think about it?
And so we asked them whether they were supportive of the idea of crypto in super.
Okay.
And 67%, so 2/3, actually said they are, which is quite high.
Yeah, that is. That's higher than I would have expected it to be.
Yeah. And like when you take the fact that 12% of the population, adult population, holds crypto, you're looking at 8% that actually are having an appetite for crypto in super. So that's not insignificant.
What's driving that appetite?
I think it's sort of what we were talking about before with the chase for growth.
Yeah.
People feeling like they need more to sort of get through their retirement years.
Yeah, it's kind of like this attitude of like kind of cheating the system a bit of like, people are really struggling for just the basics now, and I have this conversation with funds all the time around people aren't thinking of their retirement right now, at least not at sort of that younger level of maybe like 35 to kind of 45, 50. People are trying to like pay their rent, pay their mortgage, feed their kids. And I suppose ways of doing that is being like, well, should I start investing? Should I start investing in the likes of cryptocurrency?
And yeah, keep in mind, like this is among crypto holders. So of course they're going to be biased toward
a little
it.
bit, yeah.
But I guess it's showing them, this cohort is familiar with digital assets. They're comfortable with the risk. They're comfortable with the kind of volatility and all those things. So, you're speaking to the converted here, basically.
Yeah. And you did say earlier around like the kind of majority of crypto holders, or more likely to be, is sort of men in their 30s. And I think people kind of listening today are probably a bit like, there's probably a good chunk of people who are like, oh God, no, I would never put any of my super in cryptocurrency. And we're absolutely not saying to do that. But what's interesting is the increase of people being more open to it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And although we've always seen a small chunk of people taking lump sums out of their super, that did go from 9% to 16%. It's still only 16%. But what is interesting is that mixture of where they're putting that lump sum, and the trend there.
And I think among the people in that cohort that are crypto investors, they've built up a certain level of comfort and skill with navigating this world, and they're getting good returns, many of them, and they're sort of looking at their super funds that are doing like 8% or something, and saying, look at how much I can get over here. I'm young, I can take on this risk.
Yeah, for sure.
Why don't I put some of that here?
Yeah. And that's the thing. And it's like, maybe when you are younger and you can play with that risk, one of the pieces of advice that are really given to young people is make sure that your fund is in, high growth when you're young and you can have that growth. In terms of next year, what can we expect to see from CoreData's cryptocurrency research?
So definitely doing another deep dive into crypto, where we gauge things like the adoption, what investors are doing, how much they're allocating, what kind of digital assets they're interested in, and that kind of thing to capture all those shifts. But also, we're keeping a very close eye on crypto through our regular syndicated pieces. So we've got questions about crypto in Advisor Pulse Check. So we're monitoring things like how many advisors actually have crypto on their approved product list. So it was 11% last time we did the research.
Okay, interesting.
Isn't very many.
Yeah. So you think that will increase by next year?
I'm not sure. I don't think this is a space that's moved much since the last piece of research. But it'll be interesting to see. There is, I find that topic of the advice gap around crypto really interesting as well, especially as we see more people come to own it and need advice on it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've also got crypto questions in ISI, which is Investor Sentiment Index, which is another piece we do each quarter. So, yeah, I'm actually really keen to look into the analysis from ISI this time to see what's come out of that.
And I mean, next year we will also have Best Possible Retirement go out early next year in 2026. And I mean, I'm really curious to see if that trend just keeps continuing. It is something that seems to be largely determined what's going on in the world at the time. But yeah, we're definitely going to probably be asking a few questions around, you know, the people who are taking those lump sums out and putting it into cryptocurrency, you know, why that is. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Anna, if anybody wants to learn more about the cryptocurrency research we've sort of just released or next year's, where can they go?
The best place to go would be the CoreData website.
Yeah.
And then you can download the white paper that we've recently published.
Great.
But you can also get in contact with me. So we'll put my email in the caption of the show notes.
Great.
And also follow us on LinkedIn. We're always putting out a lot of videos, infographics of data around crypto.
Yeah.
So that'd be the best place to look.
Yeah.
And what about retirement, actually?
Yeah, we have 4 pieces of retirement research that go out every year. And if anybody is interested in learning a little bit more about them, you can also go on the CoreData website or email me directly. The link will be to my email will be on the caption notes. And I mean, today we really talked about a lot. We went through cryptocurrency and where it sits in super, as well as the trends that we're seeing a lot in different parts of our research across CoreData. We'll probably have more podcasts coming out next year around these topics as things change. But for now, thank you very much for listening.